Curiosity. Kill the rat. Curiosity. Kill the rat.
Sup, guys, and welcome to episode 8 of Curiosity Killed the Rat.
It's good to be here.
You interrupted me. That was rude.
I always interrupt you. It's just it's interjecting fun points. It's giving a conversational feel to the intro rather than it having being a monologue, you know? It's artistry at its finest. You fool. You oaf. You heathen. You unrefined goddamn swine person. Yeah. So please continue to talk. I beg. I plead. Nay.
I don't know if I want to now because clearly you have no interest in what I have to say. Wow. I'm feeling the blow. So for those of you new here, welcome. We're not normally this savage to each other. I think isolation is making us both a bit crazy.
Our introversion only has so many limits.
Oh boy, that was harsh. But if you're new here, we are a science podcast. We like to talk things science and it's all a bit of fun, have a bit of banter. I'm Kate. I'm a neuroscientist. That's my background. But, you know, I love everything science and I just like to learn and also chat. So here you are listening to me learning and chatting.
I'm Matt. I'm just like real interested in science. Don't got a degree in it. Don't need one. That's what my sister's for.
Don't got a degree in it.
I don't need.
You make it sound like you're so uneducated.
Well, what can I say? I don't need them fancy pants papers on the wall. I got me some street smarts, and I'll tell you what, it's got me pretty far in life, and that's all I really need. So what are we talking about? What are we talking?
I was going to say I lack street smarts, but today's topic is very street smarts related, especially at the moment.
Yes.
Because we're going to be talking about soap and the chemistry of soap. But like before we dive into that, I think we wanted to just give a bit of an update.
Yes.
Last episode, which was actually like 3 episodes, so well done if you listened to all 3 parts. I'm impressed. We were talking about sort of, you know, the coronavirus, COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2, and we talked a lot about what the world was doing in response to that, whether it was enough. And we just wanted to give a quick update, like in such a short amount of time. Oh boy,
so
a lot has
much
changed.
Has happened. Oh my God.
Like
even
so
just
much
within
of what
the
we
time
said.
of like editing and releasing those episodes, so much
changed. It's wild. It's a wild ride. So Matt, do you want to give us a
baby, it's a wild world.
Yeah, do you want to give us a quick update on the sitch in the world right now, or in Australia anyway, because we're based in Australia, so we're going to look at Australia.
So yeah, there's like 1,000 things for whatever other countries are out there, and you happen to be from
whatever other countries are out there. Matthew,
what
so
can
respectful
I say?
of our global audience.
I've got some goddamn national pride, all right? Sue me.
Boy.
So the first thing I'm going to start with is the total number of confirmed cases in this here country.
Yes, because it was like 700 and something.
Was that the total?
It was total for the whole country. Because I remember Ellie was like, has Australia hit 500 yet? And you were like, 700 and something. And we were like, oh gosh. And we like freaked out over that. So what's a fortnight later?
Holy shit. Okay.
Or not even a fortnight later, like a week and a half later.
Do you want to hazard a guess? Or do you like sort of know?
I know it's in the thousands now, or I'm pretty sure it's in the thousands
4,976.
Oh, okay. No, that is up. That is up from last I saw.
With just about half of them being in New South Wales alone.
Yeah, that was because of that
cruise ship that happened. So yeah, there was a cruise ship that was docked and they let them off and people just sort of went to their homes and various places straight from there. And I think most of the reported cases in New South Wales are as a result of that cruise ship happening. So I think now there are like 9 goddamn cruise ships just docked in Sydney with nowhere to go, not being allowed off.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the same in Perth though, isn't it? Like there was a cruise ship that went into Freo, but they didn't let anyone off.
And then they did let them off, but it was very controlled.
They did let them off in the end.
Well, yes, but it was all sort of like quarantined and controlled, and I think they sent him straight to the airport or something like that, because my housemate was telling me actually he was coming home from work. He works at a supermarket, so he still has a job. unlike me.
Same. Well, same to an extent.
I've just been stood down. I still have my employment.
My thesis.
It'll come back when all this madness dies down in a fucking year. Anyway.
Lost one of my jobs. I still have, thankfully I can still do a bit of research from home,
But he was saying he was driving home on Canning Highway, which is kind of a relatively busy road in Perth that goes from Fremantle, where the dock is, and heads towards the city, and then eventually I think if you follow it long enough, it'll go to the airport and stuff as well. But he saw 3 police cars with their lights flashing and stuff, and behind them were 3 Transperth buses, all of them with their numbers set to 000, and behind that another 3 police cars, and those buses were transporting the people from Fremantle from the cruise ship straight to the airport, I'm pretty sure.
Dang, with a police escort and all.
With a police escort and all. Like,
That's
taking
amazing.
it super seriously in that. It's very interesting.
No, that's good though. That's how it should be. I think they've learnt from Sydney's mistake.
So the total stats I have on all of the states, this is as of 6 a.m., 2nd of April, 2020, from the health.gov website. So 84 in the ACT, 2,298 in New South Wales, 18 in the Northern Territory, 781 in Queensland, 367 in South Australia, 68 in Tasmania, 968 in Victoria, and 392 in Western Australia. Represent. Only 21 have died though. But important to note, only 261,000 tests have been conducted.
Yeah, I was going to say it's super important to note that, like, a major component of these results is the testing criteria, right? And New South Wales has so many cases because a part of the testing criteria is that international travel. So all of those people on that cruise ship would have been able to be tested, and then anyone in contact with those people would have been able to be tested. But because of the testing criteria, it's a bit dodgy.
So it seems like most of Australia's cases are from New
yeah.
South Wales, but that's just because
that might
they're
not
heavily
be
testing
the case
it after the incident with the cruise ship.
Yeah.
You know? Whereas places
so,
like Northern Territory and ACT, they might probably don't have as
Northern
many testing kits
Territory
available.
definitely wouldn't
Especially
have as
Northern
many.
Territory.
Yeah. So I don't know how accurate those numbers are, but just like the increase from, I think the important thing is not the raw data itself, but just like the increase since last episode, which is just like, it really, really emphasizes that point that Ellie was trying to make about the curve and the steep increase, and, you know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And how we're now all on like level 3 lockdown and can't, like last time it was only me that couldn't leave my house.
But now
none of you
I
can.
can't, and we can't go out in more than like 2 people at a time, and and you're only allowed like 1 guest over to your house, and it's
and even then you probably shouldn't.
And have you
a
heard
wild
of
time.
I don't know if Victoria's doing it as well, but WA, we're starting to get drones with loudspeakers attached, not like, you know, drones that drop bombs on people kind of drones. I'm talking
obviously.
like those tiny quadcopter remote control things.
I got that.
And they're taking them to public places like beaches and parks and stuff where people aren't allowed to be congregating, and they're just like playing messages about social distancing through the loudspeakers of the drone. So the police are going around being like, hey, if you see people in a crowd, and just like being like, hey, break up, y'all. This shit ain't okay.
Victoria's gone one step further, and we've actually like closed our beaches and our playgrounds and stuff now because people just weren't listening to the police advice about keeping
I think they are
proper
technically
distancing.
closed in WA as well, but another housemate of mine was going for a run the other day, and he like saw so many families and stuff out at the parks around my suburb and that sort of thing. So
no, there's fully signs up. Because I went for a run this morning. I noticed I run past like a playground, and there was like a sign like picketed in the ground that was like warning, this is closed, do not be here. I don't know. I didn't go close enough to read all the fine print, but I was like, oh dang.
God damn.
Yeah. So
that's all
the
that really
point
needs
is
updating.
The point is the situation has escalated. I can say words. Escalated quite significantly, and
just
so
in the
that's
2
why,
weeks.
Yeah. So that's why this week's topic, we wanted to do something that was like still a little bit fun and lighthearted and different, and not just like, here is information about coronavirus, which I'm sure you're sick of, but also that still feels relevant because this is kind of the only thing consuming my consciousness right now. I don't know about everyone else, but I'm finding it very hard to focus on literally anything else. So the science of soap. Soap is really fun, and like we'll get to eventually why soap and why just washing your hands with soap is like all you need to do and is the best defense against this virus. You don't need your fancy vodka vinegar solutions that aren't actually going to do anything. All you just need is just use soap, any soap, dish soap, shampoo.
That's what
whatever.
we've been using, actually, dish soap, because every time we've gone to the shops, there's been no hand soap. All of the hand soap and hand sanitizer is just always gone. So we just got an extra bottle of dish soap and we keep it in our bathroom cupboard to refill our hand soap pump dispenser.
Yeah.
Just
perfect.
mixed with a little bit of water to dilute it a little.
Yeah, exactly.
but-
And that's like, I mean, like it might be a bit harsher on your skin. And if you've got sensitive skin, like that's unfortunate. But, in terms of if you're looking just for like something that is going to kill this virus, like just literally any soap will do it. And I'm going to explain why. But before we get to that, like, I just want to start with a little bit of like history, just a bit of background about like soap, right? We have been, I didn't realize this till I started sort of researching it, but like soap as a sort of concept and in terms of its like main ingredients has not changed for like almost like 5,000 years. We've been kind of using the same thing. So yeah, so ancient Babylonians are actually credited with being the first people to create soap.
Oh shit, that's going back.
So
Fucking
yeah,
Babylon.
so like the evidence that we have for this comes from these like clay containers that archaeologists have found, and these clay containers have been like dated back to like 2800 BC.
Petition to call them claytainers.
Claytainers, yeah.
Claytainers.
So these claytainers, and how this relates to soap is they found that like carved into the side of these like claytainers is like the recipe for soap, or what they used as the recipe for soap, which was like generally animal fat, water, and like wood ash. So like the ash after burning.
Like charcoal.
Like charcoal, kind of, essentially. And that recipe was carved onto these clay pots from like 5,000 years ago. And that's essentially, I'll explain a bit later, but that's essentially the same sort of recipe as we currently use for soap. So it's like, they were definitely making soap. There's also evidence that like ancient Egyptians used soap, and that it was used by the Egyptians for treating like sores and skin diseases and stuff. And the Romans actually there's reports of the Romans using soap, but it was predominantly used by doctors actually to treat diseases and stuff. It wasn't until like the very later centuries of the Roman era that people started using soap for personal hygiene. So like soap has been around for like a good long while.
Hot diggity.
And like essentially, yeah, people eventually started using it for personal hygiene and whatever, and they ended up refining that basic recipe of like an animal fat or like a vegetable oil works as well, some sort of ash and some sort of water.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm a vegan. What do I do? How can I stay clean?
Oil. Yeah, just some sort of oil
I'm not a vegan.
or fat.
That was a hypothetical.
But it was actually 1865, another just little fun history tidbit. A guy named William Shepherd was the first guy to to patent liquid soap. So up until that point, all soap had been like solid blocks of soap.
Like bars and...
Yeah. And as you can imagine, like liquid soap was kind of a huge deal because it makes it a lot easier to clean things like surfaces and clothes and whatever with liquid than a bar of soap. So essentially like that's the basic recipe: fat, water, and then ashes. And they eventually figured out over centuries of research that the reason the ash worked so well is that it was a strong base. All about that base.
Do you mean base as in like not an acid?
Yeah, as in not an acid. I was going to explain that. So essentially like basic being the opposite of acidic. So if something's a base, that means it's like alkali or it has a pH greater than 7.
Basic.
Yeah, basic. So essentially anything basic is gonna help make soap turn into soap, or turns the animal fats or the vegetable oils into soap. It kind of like you need the pH to be right to facilitate the chemical reaction that I'll go through in a second that essentially creates soap. So like to really break into the chemistry nuts and bolts for like a hot second. So you've got your animal fats and your vegetable oils, which are made up entirely almost entirely of these molecules called triglycerides. So the name's not important, but essentially what triglycerides are, they have two main parts. They've got a glycerol backbone, and then they've got these like little fatty acid tails that tail off that backbone. And these are triglycerides, and that's what's in your oils and your fats and what's used to make soap. So these fatty acid tails are connected to the backbone by a bond that's like pretty sensitive. So for those real chemistry nerds out there, shout out. I know you're out there. I'm out there. This is an ester bond. For those of you that don't know what that means, that doesn't matter. Yeah, it's just a type of bond. It's the type of bond that is. It's called an ester bond.
Oh,
but it's
God,
like
why
it's
are
a pretty.
scientists such fucking memers?
Look. Ester bonds
Ester
can be
bonds.
broken. Exactly, it's so funny. Ester bonds can be broken by a strong base. So this is why, like, whatever the main component of like ash, which is basic, or you can use. I think these days they use sodium hydroxide instead. Anyway, you can just use a strong base, and it's gonna like chop this ester bond, and it's gonna free the fatty acid tail away from the glycerol backbone. And so what you're gonna be left with is like glycerol as a molecule, and you're going to be left with all these like fatty acid salts. And now these fatty acid salts, I know it sounds really like boring and like high school chemistry, because it kind of is so far, but these fatty acid salts are what are really cool and what makes soap like actually
What makes
work.
it soapy?
What makes it soap? Yeah, so the fatty acid salts are essentially what soap is, or what we talk about when we talk about like soap doing its thing. So these fatty acid salts, these fatty acids, they have they also have two parts to them. So they have a head and a tail. So the head, yeah. So you can picture them as little like sperm, but smaller.
Okay, I will
Molecular
now do that.
level sperm.
I'm definitely going to do that now.
The head of this
The
is so
soap
bad.
sperm. No, continue.
The head of the
Tell me
soap
about the soap sperm. Yeah.
The
So how
head
do
of
these
the soap-
little swimmers get the stuff off you?
Okay, so these little molecular soap sperm.
Yes.
The head is what's called polar, which means it is attracted to water, or hydrophilic, loves water. And
So these
attracted to
guys
water.
really are little swimmers. Okay.
The heads are, yeah, but the tails
Oh.
are actually hydrophobic or lipophilic / non-polar, which means they're scared of water, or they're repelled by water. They don't like water. They get away from water.
Hydrophobic, that's like when you see those videos of people spraying clothes and stuff with hydrophobic liquids, and all the water and stuff just rolls right off. And
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff like that, right,
hydrophobic. So the little tails of the sperm, the soap sperm, are hydrophobic. So they're going to repel water. So this tail is going to like repel water. It's non-polar. It's a carbon chain. None of that's important unless you're like a hell chemistry nerd. I don't know. I'm catering to all parties here in terms of level of detail. But essentially what's important about this like polar head and non-polar tail is that normally in a normal situation, like non-polar things will dissolve in other non-polar things. So oil is non-polar, and you can dissolve different oils inside each other. They'll mix, they'll dissolve, they'll join. Water is polar, and you can dissolve a polar thing will dissolve in a polar thing like water, but oil being non-polar does not dissolve in water, which we know, right? This is why the massive like oil spills in the ocean is such a problem, because the oil just separates from
like you get that
the
whenever
water.
you make like a vinaigrette, you know, you have like the oil kind of doing the floaty at
Yeah.
the top, and your
And I mean-
vinegar's just kind of chilling.
Exactly. And you can literally do this as a home experiment. Like if you're super bored at home in isolation and you want to do some fun science, just get a cup of water, like a glass of water, pour some like, I don't know, olive oil or whatever you've got into it, and give it a good stir, give it a good mix. Try mix it. It won't mix. It'll separate back out, and the oil will float on top, right? But then what you can do, just get like some hand soap or dish soap or whatever soap, do a couple of squirts of soap in there, then mix it, and you'll see it actually dissolves.
So does this mean soap is an emulsifier?
Exactly. Soap is an emulsifier.
Oh,
which-
goddamn. Oh,
Yeah,
goddamn.
means, you know, for those of you who don't know, an emulsifier is just something that can make two liquids that don't normally mix. And so it's called a surfactant is the type of molecule that acts as.
I only recently
And-
learnt about emulsification from watching like cooking videos when people make stuff
yes.
like mayonnaise, because that's just like
Yes.
oil and eggs.
Yes.
You got to like
Yes.
constantly mix it together.
Yeah.
So
So you can chuck some soap in your mayonnaise.
oh, sweet, man. You know, I love cleaning my mouth
Because and like the reason that this works, right, is because you can think of soap as like the bridge or the like magic middleman, right? It has this polar head that bonds and like is attracted to the water, but then this non-polar tail that's like bonding and attracting to the lipids, so the fats or the oils or whatever. And so the way it actually does it is like really cool. Is that like, so picture your little sperms, your little soap sperms.
I am.
They form these like spherical, sphere-shaped
spherical
cages.
spheres, yes.
Spherical spheres,
As opposed to the
look,
rectangular spheres.
Yeah, look, okay, the spherical spheres, I couldn't think of the word I was looking for. The round things, they form these like spheres that are like cages for the little oil droplets. So picture all of the little sperm tails going inside and then just like an outside cage of sperm heads.
Wait, hold on. Wait, no. Backtrack.
Okay.
So
tie all
What?
the tails together. Tie all the tails together in the middle, and all the heads will form a sphere around it, right? With all the tails pointing inwards.
okay.
Can you picture that?
Yeah, so it's
Except
just
we're not
like a
talking
bunch
actual
of-
sperm, we're talking molecules, but you know.
So it's just a bunch
carbon
of
tails
these goddamn soapy spermy boys kind of doing a, penguin huddle in the depth of winter, but it's spherical rather than in a ring where they got all their tail booties in the middle and all their head boys.
Yep.
Okay.
And because the tail boys that are on the inside are your non-polar, likes oil, likes fat molecules, they're going to actually capture the little oil droplets, attract the little oil droplets, and dissolve the little oil droplets in the middle, while the heads are going to protect the outside. And because the heads are also the part of this molecule where the ester bond was cleaved, so you've got a slight negative charge. And so all these heads, these little floating spheres, are slightly negatively charged, which means they're going to actually repel each other, which means that they're not going to clump together and all the oil's not going to clump together. All these little, they're called micelles, is the name of these sphere things, these little oil cages. And all these micelles are going to repel each other in the thing, so it doesn't clump together, and that's how it like breaks it apart and dissolves it essentially.
So the soap molecules are these little balls of the lots of sperm thingies with the tails on the inside and the heads on the outside.
Well, no, the soap molecules, before you start rubbing it in your hands and reacting it with the like grease and oil and whatever that's on your hands or whatever you're washing, the soap molecules are just the spermy boys.
Okay.
Right? The fatty acid salts. And then when you react it with the oil and the dirt and the grease and the shit that's stuck on your hands,
I hope there's no shit on your hands.
well, if there is,
True.
work. Then all the tails of the sperms are going to get attracted to the oil, and the heads are going to form these spheres, and they're going to repel each other, and it's going to kind of break all the oil apart, and then and pull it off your hand essentially, or whatever you're washing. And then when you turn the tap on and like rinse it, it's just going to rinse it all away, and it's going to take it all with it. Because if you just rinsed your hands underwater and they're covered in like oil and stuff and like germs and dirt and stuff really likes to stick to the oils in your hands, and you're going to rub that underwater, the water's just going to run over it, right? Because oil and water doesn't mix. But then you add the soap, and the soap actually pulls these oils and dirt and stuff off your hands by creating these little cages for it and rinsing it down the thing.
After it's been rinsed off and it's off your hands and gone forever, do they stay as these little sperm sphero boys, or do they eventually like fall apart and release the oil bits in the middle, or are they just like that forever until a different chemical comes along and breaks them apart?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't actually know the answer to that. Everything that I read only looked.
I mean, that's the important bit. That was just more
taken off your
curiosity.
hands. Yeah, no, now I'm curious as well. No, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how strong the bond is of these micelles holding them together, whether it would require some other chemical to break it apart or whether just time would break it apart. Okay. Uncertain, but interesting point. Yeah, so that's essentially how it works.
So that's how it gets rid of oils and stuff, but how does it help with any kind of foreign particle you don't want on you that's not an oil, like dirt or, I don't know, here's a hypothetical one, viruses?
So I'm okay. They're two separate points. Let's go dirt first. I did sort of mention before the dirt and the germs and the bacteria and whatever sticks kind of to the oil on your hands, right?
Okay.
And so it's not gonna break like down the dirt, but it's still gonna like remove it because that's how it clings to you.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Oil is the glue between your hands and the universe.
Yeah. Which is disgusting.
Yes.
So viruses, or, specifically because it's relevant to the world right now, the SARS-CoV-2 virus, the cause of COVID-19, we'll talk about that boy. One element of that is similar to the dirt and the germs and whatever, is that it likes to sort of stick to the oil on your hands, and that's why your hands are a very good vector for like carrying it, transmitting it, and that's why we're like told wash your hands, don't touch your face, all of that sort of stuff. But the other element of the story is that soap can actually kill the virus itself. And if you listen to our coronavirus episodes where we talked a bit about the virus, you would have learnt that this virus is what's called an enveloped virus, and that envelope is what's essentially made up of fat. It's a lipid bilayer. It's a fat coated virus. So what that means is that these little viruses act essentially the same as like an oil droplet. You can picture them as little oil droplets, right? And so what happens is that these little I'm just going to keep calling them soap sperms because I just love that now.
What's their actual name again?
Well, they're fatty acid salts. They're
right.
Yeah.
Soap sperm's funnier.
Soap sperm's funnier. So the soap sperm comes along. The little non-polar tail is going to bind to the outside of this oil droplet / this virus because, it's essentially fat. And then the polar head is going to tug away and pull towards the water. And this happening all around the oil droplet with all the sperm boys pulling in different directions. It literally like rips the skin. I mean, it's not skin, but rips this envelope, the membrane, the envelope of this virus. It tears it apart.
Yeah.
And then what happens is these little micelle spheres will form again with the little shards of virus stuck inside them. Right. And so it's formed these little like cages around the shards of virus, like not even complete virus. It's like torn it apart. But there's a catch. The catch is it takes like 20 seconds for this effect to happen, which is why we're told wash your hands for 20 seconds, right? Because you can't just wash your hands for 3 seconds. That's not long enough for the virus to get pulled apart by the soap.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
So does that also mean that the soap isn't just breaking the membrane, it's also attacking what's inside the membrane? Did I hear that right? And then kills what's left?
What's inside the membrane is essentially just RNA, which can't survive kind of free floating on its own.
Okay,
so it'll just,
so it just dies.
So as soon as you
like
rip
ripping
apart
the
that envelope,
spacesuit off the astronaut. That is the virus.
You're just tearing the flesh off it, and then the lungs
that.
collapse inside that. Yeah,
Good.
Exactly. It's beautiful. It's a wonderful, very, very vicious.
But you need to wash your hands for at least 20 seconds for that to happen.
Yes, you do.
Right.
You do.
Do you need warm water to do it, or will it work with cold water?
No, cold water will work.
Right. And is that 20 seconds of just rubbing the soap on your hands dry before you rinse it off, or is that rubbing and rinsing and rubbing and rinsing for the 20 seconds?
Oh, no, like rubbing, and then, so you wet your hands, you put the soap on your hands, and then you're rubbing for 20 seconds, and that rubbing...
That's what she said.
Not only...
Sorry.
That rubbing not only... now I've lost it. I hate you. Gosh.
You can use different wording if you like.
Shh, hush. It creates friction, which helps kind of facilitate this process, but it also helps get the soap into all the little nooks and crannies and stuff of your hands and fingers. But as long as the soap is sort of in contact with your hands and doing its thing for the 20 seconds, then it'll essentially be doing its job. And so, like, there's been some really funny examples. I don't know, you've probably seen them going around the internet of, like, the different things you can do for 20 seconds to entertain yourself. Like, the standard one is sing happy birthday twice, but, like, everyone hates happy birthday. My personal favorite is, like, one verse of Hey Jude, because I'm a Beatles tragic. Or one verse of My Sharona, but singing like My Corona. Yeah.
Oh, classic.
Or of course, because like I'm a dramatic fucking I'm May. Bohemian Rhapsody, apparently from I see a little silhouette of a man. All the way through. Yeah, all the way through to spare him his life from this monstrosity is about 20 seconds. So if you want to be like fully dramatic, you can just act out that whole thing, and that's 20 seconds. And that's a good fun one to do. Everyone loves
Love it.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
I like that.
But yeah, so that's why the 20-second thing is a thing, and that's how it works. And it's not actually sperm. Just want to clarify that once again.
It just kind of looks like it.
But it does have this like head. And a tail. It's got a head and a tail.
We could have been calling them tadpoles. That's also what they look like. They also look like tadpoles.
Or just like a ball and a stick, but a wavy
well, not a stick, a tail.
Yeah, a carbon chain. Yeah. Anyway.
Sperm's funnier because we are literal children.
Oh, sometimes I wonder if I'm
so
qualified to be an adult. So
I have a quick sidebar question because it's going back to like Corona specifically and not necessarily soap. So like what can kill it is you got your soapy boys, you got your alcohol above 60%. And something that one of my housemates got recently, because you can't get fucking alcohol-based hand sanitizer everywhere. Anywhere, I mean. It's a peroxide-based sanitizer. So it's alcohol-free, but apparently this was released, and it says on the bottle, released directly in response to COVID-19. This hydrogen peroxide or just peroxide-based hand sanitizer that's meant to like straight up kill the virus, but it has no alcohol in it.
Interesting.
Yeah, take the time to look it up. I've kind of put you on the spot there. Because like when I saw it was a alcohol-free sanitizer, I was like, dude, that's not going to work. And then he showed me the bottle and I was like, yeah, we brought this out for COVID-19. I'm like, oh, lol. It feels really weird. It like doesn't rub in right away and your hands stay sticky for like 40 seconds.
I mean,
and then it's fine.
That's the other thing with hand sanitizer, though, is that it also takes about the 20 seconds to rip apart the virus. So,
but I mean, it's not like you're rinsing off the alcohol, though.
Well, yeah, but but it can dry up and you don't rub your hands for as long, right? People get lulled into this false sense of security where they don't put enough hand sanitizer on and they don't rub their hands for long enough afterwards because they kind of have this idea of like, oh, the hand sanitizer has touched my skin, therefore it has killed the virus. But it's like, that's actually not the case. You actually need to also keep like rubbing your hands and make sure you use enough that your hands stay moist for long enough to kill the virus. So that's interesting.
That's information I now have.
So yeah, hydrogen peroxide does actually or can actually work as an effective sanitizer as well. In fact, like the CDC in America, which is the Center for Disease Control, released a statement saying that a solution of 3% hydrogen peroxide mixed with 97% water is effective against viruses, specifically rhinovirus, and it has been recommended for SARS-CoV-2 as well.
Right.
So the point is it can, but then there was a note here that says the exposure time has to be 6 to 8 minutes. So like,
okay. That's probably why like, this particular hand sanitizer takes a long time to like rub into your skin. So you kind of have to keep. So what, you have to keep rubbing your hands for 6 minutes, or does it just sitting on your skin? Because like you can feel the coating.
I feel like as long as you have rubbed it in enough that it covers, like that you've kind of gotten into all of those nooks and crannies and stuff, then it can just sit there and do its job. But you do still have to do the initial
don't like
kind of
rinse
like
your
get
hands
it
off afterwards
thing.
Or something like that. And also it is important to note that stuff is like 3% peroxide and then the rest is water. Like don't go dipping your hands in bleach. That'll certainly kill the virus, but it'll do like a fuck ton of other bad shit for you. So it
will also hurt your soul. Yeah. So yeah, do we want to shuffle on to the listener question? Have we had enough of coronavirus for the moment? Because I've kind of had enough of coronavirus.
Bit of oversaturation of that stuff at the moment.
Yeah,
it's good to be informed, relevant. But at the same time, it's like, hard to not think about in every other facet of my life.
So I have a good question. I have a listener question that has absolutely zero relation to coronavirus.
Lay it on me.
It's about alcohol, which is my jam. Not my jam in the sense that I drink a lot, because I don't actually drink, but my jam in the sense that I study alcohol addiction, so I know a lot about alcohol. So I like this question, and I'm going to read it word for word because it was just worded so beautifully. So we have a question that was emailed in by Josh, and I just love it. So, when drinking alcohol in an empty stomach, people commonly feel more intoxicated. If one were to do this, would their blood alcohol levels be any higher than if they had enjoyed a succulent Chinese meal before heading out on the town?
And what is the charge, sir? A meal? A succulent Chinese meal? Did you see they tracked that guy down recently?
Yeah.
It was for like a fucking music video, and then he like did a whole marketing campaign with TAB or something.
Yeah.
It was
I saw
crazy.
that.
Everyone
Beautiful.
thought he died.
Yeah, no. So, and so the short answer is yes.
Wait, what was the? I got distracted by my impersonation. So, what was like? What was the leaning of the question? So, yes means you get a higher blood alcohol level, or
yeah. Okay. So, if you get drunk on an empty stomach, or so if you have, let's say, one standard drink, one beer, you chug a cold one on an empty stomach. Chug a cold one on an empty stomach with the boys, or you chug a cold one after a succulent Chinese meal with the boys.
Yes.
Is your blood alcohol level going to be higher on an empty stomach than after said succulent meal? The answer is yes. Your blood alcohol content will most certainly be higher. So yeah, people obviously, as just said at the start of this question, people do feel more intoxicated more quickly when they drink without eating. And there is a reason for that. Shock horror. It is because there is in fact more alcohol in your blood. Yeah. So do you want to know why? Do you want to know how that works, or is that enough? Then we're done. Quit. Done. Answer.
Well, thanks for listening, everyone. It's been a really good... Okay. No. What?
No. Okay. So the general sort of, not really myth, but like idea, concept is that when you eat food, it absorbs the alcohol, right?
Especially
like
bread. Bread is alcohol sponge, apparently.
There's a bit of truth to that, but not really. The way that it works, bread is not actually going to be your best bet because bread is a carbohydrate that digests quite quickly. You actually want to eat something that's like really high in fat or high in protein because those things digest very slowly. And the reason
is that why you have like a greasy breakfast when you're hungover?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe could be why you definitely crave it. But like, yeah, it will work in terms of like if you have a protein or high fat meal before you drink, then all of this food is going to be sitting in your stomach. And that does, in fact, slow the absorption of alcohol into your bloodstream. The reason for that is because about 80% of the absorption of alcohol happens in your small intestine. So, like, some of it happens in the mouth, some of it happens in the stomach, but mostly it's in your small intestine. When the alcohol reaches your small intestine, that it gets absorbed into your bloodstream. And so in between your stomach and your small intestine, we have like a little muscle, a little valve, a little sphincter, if you will.
A sphincter.
It's called the pyloric sphincter.
The pyloric sphincter. I tell you what, that's going to be the name of my new fucking punk band.
Amazing. Pyloric
What's
sphincter.
up, everyone? We're a pyloric sphincter and we're going to fuck you up.
Yeah. So this pyloric sphincter, or this pylorus valve, or whatever you want to call it, it essentially, if you don't have any food in your stomach, it's open. So if you drink alcohol, it's going to go through your stomach. Your stomach's it's not going to sit in your stomach. It's just going to go straight into that lower intestine, straight into your bloodstream. If there's food in your stomach, what happens in your stomach to food is that, all the stomach acid does its thing and it essentially breaks down the food. And this pyloric sphincter actually stays closed until the food in your stomach is broken down and digested enough to move on to the small intestine. Otherwise, you're going to get, it's just going to go straight through and it's, not good, right? We need a control mechanism for keeping food in our stomach until it's broken up enough to continue on the track. And that's what the pyloric sphincter's job is that it keeps food in the stomach and pretty much anything in the stomach, including liquid, including alcohol, until the food that's there is digested enough to pass through. So what happens is if your stomach is full of food, that pyloric sphincter is going to be closed, and the alcohol, and it's going to close until like the food kind of digests, and it's going to open a little bit, let a bit of food through, but then close again and just let bits trickle through as digestion happens. And so the alcohol is actually going to get into your small intestine much slower, and therefore into your bloodstream much slower.
So you can make alcohol low GI by having a greasy meal.
I mean, it's still, you still have it. It still hits you eventually. It just kind of like prolongs it just makes it take longer. Well, and also I guess, you know, there is actually a little bit less that eventually makes it to the small intestine because while it's churning around in the stomach, some of it can get broken down. So you do get less drunk overall. But yeah, essentially, eating food makes the alcohol hit you less and slow release. Yeah.
Yeah. Does that also mean if you eat more, you pee less? Because your stomach is filling up with more food. So then if you just top that with normal liquids, even if it's just water, your sphincter won't let the liquid through into the small intestine? Or does the water kind of seep through the food and kind of still make its way through?
I mean, because you can have water absorption. I think you can have water absorption in the stomach. Hang on,
to my knowledge, I didn't think that was okay. I didn't think that was the case. I could be wrong. I mean, last time I learnt about it was bloody year 8 biology.
Yeah, it's been a while. Water is absorbed in the alimentary tract. Yeah, that doesn't fucking. What is that?
Brought to you by 2 not biologists.
The organ. I am a biologist. I'm just the wrong type of biologist.
Brought to you by 1 wrong type of biologist and 1 not biologist.
I love that. The alimentary tract includes the mouth, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, and anus.
Is that just the wank name for the digestive system?
Gastrointestinal tract. No, I don't know. Weird. Must be an okay, small intestine as well. Okay. So to answer your question, that's an interesting point. I think possibly because as far as I'm aware, water gets absorbed in the small intestine as well, and so it would slow all of that, and it would also, in terms of the alcohol, right? If the alcohol's not getting into your bloodstream, it's not reaching, you know, the parts of your nervous system or endocrine system and stimulating the hormones that make it a diuretic and make you want to pee more. And so you have less of that diuretic effect as well as less of the liquid just kind of like actually absorbing through. Or it just happens slower because, like, you know, you're not going to be more dehydrated because the water's eventually going to make it through. Yeah. It's just not going to make it through as quickly because it's not going to get broken. Like, the water doesn't get broken down in the liver like the alcohol does.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the water will eventually get there, or any liquid, whatever you drink. But, yeah.
There you go.
Fascinating stuff, right?
I think that's a pretty tidy place to wrap things up.
Yeah, I would say so. That was a fun little.
I got to be honest, it's kind of surreal just finishing now compared to last fortnight where we just went for fucking like 5 hours,
recorded
7 hours
for like
straight.
20 hours.
God.
Yeah. No, this was nice. This was fun. I had fun. I hope you had fun. No, and it's, you know what's great about the fact that our podcast is already done by distance is that this whole working from home social distancing between us hasn't affected anything.
Yeah,
business as used from the Curiosity Killed the Rat team.
Memes and news things about people like really struggling with the self-isolation and the quarantine and that. I'm kind of like, I mean, that's just kind of what I did normally. I only really left the house for work and uni's online, and I've been stood down at work. So now it's just like, okay, so now the rest of my days are just like the other days. So, okay.
Yeah. Whereas I still have work to do from home and trying to be productive. It's been a steep learning curve. But in terms of I'm loving that in terms of podcast work, business as usual. That's a nice feel, sense of normalcy in this wild, wild world.
And that's real important. So you don't drive yourself crayfish.
Exactly. So remember, reach out to your friends, reach out to your family, even if you're not in the same house as them. You know, we're so lucky to live in a world where technology allows stuff like this to happen.
Exactly.
You know, and
like
we
if
can
this
have meetings
happened
via Zoom.
50 years ago, we'd be...
You know... Well, I read this thing. I read this thing that when the universities had to close down because of was it bubonic plague? That's when I've stuffed.
Oh, that's when Newton
who invented calculus? Was it Newton?
Yeah, it was Newton.
So when the universities had to close down because of the bubonic plague, that's when Isaac Newton invented calculus and also figured out, you know, gravity. So me as a scientist at home is feeling imposter syndrome more than ever if it wasn't real before. Oh boy. But also Isaac Newton didn't have Netflix or a PS4.
That's
So,
true. That's true.
you know,
I've got
that's-
a number of streaming services and a number of online games, and it's
Yep.
been fun. It's
Yeah.
been fun. It's been a little holiday. I feel I should do more, but oh well.
Enjoy it while you can.
I will.
That's what I reckon. Silver linings of this whole horrific crisis that's happening around the world, right? Take them where you
Exactly.
can get them. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, guys, for listening. Look after yourselves. Stay safe and wash your damn hands.
You
Wash
dirty
your
pig.
fucking goddamn dirty hands.
Love it.
Beautiful. And with that, follow us. Social media.
Oh,
at
right.
Curiosity Rat.
Email us.
curiosityrat@gmail.com.
Insta, Twitter,
Insta,
Facebook.
Twitter, Facebook. Find us, love us. We recently got a new logo. It's amazing. I love it. So shout out to
Steph.
Steph. You can find him at Steph, STEFF_tattoo_artist on Insta. He's amazing. Check out his work and enjoy life as much as you can right now. You know, that's all I'm going to say. Just do your best. We're all just doing our best.
That's all we
And
can
with
ever do.
Peace out, homies.
Bye.
Curiosity. Kill the rat. Curiosity. Kill the rat.
Sup, guys, and oh wait, shit, what episode are we up to?
Oh shit, I don't actually know. This is 8. This is 8.
Because 7 was actually like 3 episodes, so I'm
Yeah.
just like spun out.
Nah, this
Are we
is,
sure it's? Are we
I'm
100%
positive
sure it's 8?
We're at episode 8.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna try that again.
Unless.